Right now, the 2026 World Cup is spanning an entire continent. Matches are happening across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, filling venues like the massive Estadio Azteca to absolute capacity. For the first time, 48 different nations are competing. This opens the doors for countries that rarely get a spot on the global stage. Defending champion Lionel Messi is back on the pitch, continuing a reign of dominance. He just hit 21 career World Cup goals, officially surpassing Germany's Miroslav Klose to hold the all-time scoring record. You are watching billions of dollars in revenue generated by the world's most recognizable athletes playing in state-of-the-art stadiums. Yet the organization running this entire event owns absolutely none of the players, none of the teams, and none of the venues. Instead of physical assets, FIFA owns the rulebook. Through the International Football Association Board, they dictate every structural change to the sport and oversee the technical implementation of VAR systems. Their real product is geopolitical influence. They maintain absolute control over exactly 211 recognized member associations. To put that in perspective, looking at the United Nations General Assembly, you will find fewer recognized member states there than under FIFA's jurisdiction. A group with zero physical sporting assets dictates the rules for the world's most popular game and eclipses the UN in global membership. The question is how they built this. In 1904, 7 European delegates sat down in Paris to form an association. They had no money and barely any infrastructure. By the time they held the first World Cup in Uruguay in 1930, they could only convince 13 teams to actually show up. Air travel wasn't an option. European players spent weeks crossing the Atlantic on ocean liners just to reach the pitch. Even decades later, their operation remained surprisingly amateur. Right before the 1966 tournament, their most prized possession, the Jules Rimet trophy, was stolen. It had to be recovered under a hedge by a dog named Pickles. For the first half of its existence, FIFA operated as a disorganized club. They survived through a heavy reliance on luck rather than any grand strategy. Following World War II, crowd interest exploded. The 1950 World Cup packed stadiums and proved the sport had massive global appeal. They capitalized on this by opening new demographics. The launch of the 1991 Women's World Cup in China marked a major expansion in their global market footprint. This chart shows the financial result. Starting in the 1990s, revenue spikes dramatically. The billions generated aren't from fans buying tickets. They come almost entirely from monopolizing TV broadcasting rights and securing corporate sponsorships. By the 2022 Qatar tournament, nearly half the human population was tuned in. Because FIFA alone owns the trademark to the World Cup and the legal right to sanction international play, they now hold an exclusive, undisputed grip on the most valuable broadcast window in sports history. When a single entity controls access to half the planet with zero oversight, the system eventually breaks. In 2015, a massive corruption scandal led to the arrest of top officials. The longtime president, Sepp Blatter, was forced to resign, becoming the face of the organization's deep institutional rot. To survive, they had to rebuild. They abandoned the old boys club mentality and moved into sterile, modern corporate headquarters, adopting strict compliance structures. This professionalization was a mandatory survival mechanism. It was designed entirely to protect their multi-billion-dollar ecosystem from collapsing. This map shows the 2026 footprint across North America. Expanding to 48 teams pushes glowing nodes into 16 additional markets. Each newly qualified nation represents an untapped pool of viewers and sponsors, creating a direct bridge into regional economies that were previously just spectators. The modern era of the sport requires global reach, and new generational stars like Kylian Mbappe act as the faces of this expanding corporate footprint. Controlling the World Cup gives them soft power. They dictate national moods, adjust global broadcast schedules, and impact local economies wherever fans surge into stadiums. FIFA does not need to own a single team or a single player to be a puppet master. They built a system where they dictate the very rhythm of the world's most popular sport.